one thing that I see in the book that definitely has to do with controversy right now, I see this book being about cancel culture in some ways. Hester commits what the society sees as a sin. They see it as a wrong, and they see it as very dangerous. And so instead of imprisoning her, they do that for a second, but instead of her spending her whole life in prison, they say, here, we got a good punishment for you. We're going to put this A on your chest for all time. You got to wear this forever so that everyone you meet is going to know what a rotten human being you were and how dangerous you were for the society. And that means you're not going to be able to participate in a lot of parts of society. You're not going to be able to get a real job anymore. You got to work for yourself. You're not going to be able to, people aren't going to see you and think you're not going to be anonymous anymore. You're going to be very famous. You're going to be famous for really bad reasons. So I just want to get your viewpoints then. What do you think of this cancel culture idea in general? I'm guessing we've all been thinking about it, at least this summer. Olivia.
I feel like it's important to point out what somebody's doing now, but the way that we're doing it, and especially online, is we're leaving little to no room for growth afterwards. People may make mistakes, but later on they can really change.
Implies no possibility of growth. So it's kind of like we've become, as a culture, judge, jury, and executioner, and we've decided this person has done something and they can't be rehabilitated. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Justin.
Kind of like when somebody growth, if they make a mistake because of something,
okay,
and they're just gonna end up dating it, they didn't learn people that. It's that thing help get canceled.
Okay, so you're saying that when somebody is canceled for what we would call a mistake that they've made, because they've been kicked out of society, they kind of take on the identity of that mistake rather than, what we would hope would happen is seeing our judgment and becoming a better person for it. Okay. Yeah, John.
I think the big thing is, especially nowadays on the internet, people are finding things that, the internet's been around for a while, and so, people are finding things that people did 10 years in the past, and they're like, oh, you did this, you're still a horrible person, even though they've grown and they're completely different, and they've done so many good and positive things. It's this one negative thing, and you think that they haven't grown, even though they say that I've grown, I've done this, I would never do that now, and it's I was young and dumb.
Okay.
And it's why are we doing that? Because everyone grows.
Okay, good. So you're saying this kind of it's almost like this thirst for public humiliation, we're going to uncover everything that you've done wrong so that we can point out what a hypocrite you are. It's obsessive a little bit. Yeah. Ella, and then to Dylan and then Sam.
I feel like a lot of people are selective on what they cancel and who they cancel.
Okay.
Person, they choose to overlook it, or they'll place things a higher rank, something is worse than the other.
Okay, good. So it feels then arbitrary. Would you say that way? It sometimes is not fair.
Person.
Okay. Can you think of an example of somebody who's done something terrible publicly and we've decided not to cancel them? I'm trying to think of something.
Yeah.
That one's tricky because I feel like a lot of people have tried very hard to cancel him.
Okay, but what did he do wrong though that he deserves to be canceled for?
It's so much.
Do you want to
Yeah, please give me a list.
Michael Jackson is a good example. Michael Jackson is a great example. Not for how to live your life, but an example of this concept. So me growing up, that was so the first Michael Jackson I ever knew was the first trial that he, it was I knew Michael Jackson music as a kid, but it was the early 90s when he first was accused of child molestation, and he was in that trial. So that's the Michael Jackson I knew. But when I talk to people 5 years older than me, they're so weirdly forgiving of Michael Jackson. They're well, court of public opinion does not tell us, whether he actually did the crime. He was a acquitted. He's an amazing musician. We can't discount that, you know? Another one that like I'm guilty of is Woody Allen. I know Woody Allen is, like, I know he's a bad person, the director, but I just really like his movies. So I try hard to ignore that. Whereas somebody who I don't like their movies, I'm ready, Brian Singer, like I'm ready to cancel him right away. Sure, I'll go with that, you know, and it depends on how we feel about the person. So selective and arbitrary both in terms of the crime and the person that we're gonna cancel. Okay. Do you have yeah, Sam?
I was just gonna say, I think sometimes we're either too quick to judge or too quick to forgive.
Okay.
And so then that becomes a problem because you see a lot of people, I mean, I'm gonna like bring this up, like there was a whole James Charles thing for a second, and then it came back and it was like, oh, just kidding, he's fine.
Who's James Charles?
He's a homosexual YouTuber. That does
Okay, I don't know YouTubers, yeah.
Back and forth.
But YouTubers do seem to be susceptible to canceling, whereas and maybe that's because the people who are the best at canceling are the people who watch YouTubers.
That's true.
Right? Like a boomer wouldn't know how to go about canceling somebody. So maybe that's why, I don't know. But you're saying that we're like, it's these knee-jerk reactions then to a situation that we don't understand the complexity of the context potentially. Okay, yeah, Dylan, what were you saying?
Oh, yeah, okay, so my problem with today's cancel culture is that it evolves around the internet. Okay, so it's what was 10 years ago was good with society, that was cool.
Yeah.
And the problem is society and culture changes over time. And the problem with the internet is the words you said 10 years ago, they don't just randomly shift into other words. So that's a problem. Society changes, the words you said didn't.
Yeah,
So
what
what was
we're
back then is good, now it's not.
So what we're dealing with a little bit is this idea that there might be subjective morality in the world, that what is okay at a certain moment in time is different than what is okay at a different moment in time. And the way that internet and cancel stuff works is with this crazy access to all public, like all information now, we can apply our morality today and say, no, this is objective morality, and apply it to things that happened in the past. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone want to argue, though, that sometimes people deserve to be canceled?
Yes.
Okay, then tell me why. Because we've been saying all these terrible things about, like, canceling somebody, but yeah. Sadie, and then Audrey.
I feel like there's some things, like, you don't give a serial killer a second chance along those same lines. Like,
Okay, so it has to do with the significance of the crime. Okay, but with a serial killer, we wouldn't cancel them, we would throw them in prison, right?
Oh, exactly, but it's like along the same lines. I mean, that's not necessarily a serial killer. It's just like, there's some offenses that, like, if you posted that or if you did this, then maybe we shouldn't forgive you for such a capital offense kind of thing.
Okay, cool. So it's still something that might not technically be illegal, but the rest of society has decided it is still deserving of some kind of punishment. We've decided that punishment is a social economic punishment. And if it's bad enough, then that's okay. Okay, yeah, Audrey.
Well, it's like there's some things that you just can't grow and change from that you deserve the negative consequences of.
Okay. Sometimes growth is impossible, you're saying. Sometimes it's somebody's character trait that we're canceling them for, that we don't think that they can change from that, yeah? Okay.
We shouldn't assume that.
Maybe
I think
not.
that there are certain people that shouldn't have a platform because they use their platform in such a negative way that
Okay.
it negatively impacts those around them.
So people have platforms, and when we're canceling people based on their public voice, then that could be okay because we're determining that this person shouldn't have such a public voice. Okay. Sam, did you have something that you wanted to add?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Oh, okay.
People have a lot of influence over others and they're not saying or giving across the right messages.
Good. Okay, yeah. Does anyone want to add a reason? Okay, I'm going to give us a couple of examples here to discuss. So, this was quite a few years ago, and I still didn't look up the name of this woman, so we're just going to call her this woman. There was this woman, and she was boarding a plane to go on vacation to Africa. I think she was going to South Africa. And she tweeted, she had 170 something Twitter followers. So she's not like an influencer. She doesn't have a platform. And she tweets out something that is offensive. She said, I'm like trying to take a step back from it. She said, headed to Africa, Hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. So people saw the tweet. Somebody with a platform saw it and tweeted it out so that it reached millions of people. Millions and millions of people are watching this. So she turns off her phone because she's on a plane, right? She heads off. She thought it was a joke. And even we've grown at that, and I agree, it's a really bad joke. But there is a way to interpret that joke where it is actually kind of progressive. Like, I know that sounds weird, but she might be saying, like, and I don't think she is putting it in these terms, but she might be saying, like, hey, there's wealth inequality in Africa, and there's not an access to like effective healthcare in Africa unless you know, are of a certain race. So she might be making like a commentary on racism. That's not the way people perceived it, though, obviously. So she's in the air, and when she lands, she turns on her phone, and she's got thousands and thousands of notifications, people telling her to, you know, to kill herself. Like, we hate you so much. You're done in our eyes. And she was just like a person. She had a job as a publicist, and so a lot of people justified the reaction by saying, you're a publicist, you should have known better about PR, you know, you're bad at your job. But basically, she's getting notifications from her friends saying, we don't want to see you ever again. I can't be associated with you anymore. She got a notification from her job. She was fired from her job. She basically was canceled in an instant there, canceled in a flight over the ocean. And now when she Googles her name, she hired, I think she was one of the ones that hired one of those internet scrubbers to try and like get rid of those web pages so that people couldn't find her again. But when she enters her name, there's still hundreds of entries about who she is and what she did. And a lot of it now is about cancel culture and saying like, we didn't give her a fair shake or whatever. But a lot of it is just like, what a monster, what a racist monster. Okay, what do you think about cancel culture in that instance? Is that one of those crimes that you don't grow from? Is that one of those crimes that kind of deserves some punishment? Sadie?
Honestly, I've said stupid things in my life, and I would not like it if a million people judge me on based on the one sentence I said. So knowing nothing else about her, I would probably say that. I mean, obviously it sounded very racist.
Yeah.
It was obviously very wrong.
Yeah.
Because white people get AIDS too. That's kind of the whole problem that everybody does.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but it just. I don't think that should have been everybody else's business. Now, if her friends want to says that she's a racist, that's one thing. But if the whole world just gets to decide who she is based off the one sentence she posted, doesn't seem very reasonable.
So you're saying that her wrong might be some people's business and not other people's business then? That like, if someone makes a bad joke online, it's not up to the stranger to chastise her, it's up to her friends. Okay, yeah, Reagan.
So the thing is, the internet is literally open to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, you are going to have really sensitive people, and you're going to have people who really don't care.
Yeah.
So when you're choosing to make your account public, and when you are choosing to put out a tweet and say something, and you are putting yourself out there on the battlefield for anybody who sees that to judge what you just said.
Okay.
So, well, I understand I wouldn't want to get attacked, and trust me, I've been on Twitter.
Not a bad place.
Like, I've gotten into so many arguments on the internet, but that's the thing. If you don't want to be judged for things like that, maybe keep your account profile like private and make sure your friends are there. Like, if you're not really open to judgment, some people it really affects them, then don't have a public account. But the thing is, like, one thing that really bothers me is people who will post about politics, and I will kind of like talk to them, but I won't be angry. I'll just be like, oh, here's some facts. They automatically think I'm trying to like invalidate them as a person. And I'm just like, what? You just put that out there publicly and you don't want me to respond to it? Like, okay.
Okay, so there's like two sides there, right? I love what you're saying about this. There's some personal responsibility that you have to take when you know your actions are public. That's in person, online, however you're doing that, But then you are also saying that why can't we have room for civil discourse that doesn't include assigning that person's character to that mistake to that person's character? Okay, yeah. Jesse, what were you going to say?
Like, she's not really like a person that's like, you expect like be careful with that. It's like, they're showing like millions of followers.
Yeah.
Popular or anything like that. So like, it's like, I feel like her friends, I guess, like other people, like your teacher, like, say, like, this is not a good thing, like, don't say that.
Yeah.
It's not like, And then it's not actually like that big of a person.
It seems like really bad luck, doesn't it? Like someone saw that randomly and decided to post it. I've said stupid things online too, and I've said jokes that probably could be turned into an offensive thing, you know? I hope not racist, but like, I don't know, I've been on the internet since I was 12. Like probably when I was 12, my GeoCities site had something I wouldn't be proud of. So like, it's hard to, do you guys GeoCities? That was like such an old person joke. Oh, we made websites for ourselves. I put a lot of like my photography on there. But anyway, so yeah, that feels like inappropriate then, right? Okay, let me use a different example then. Now this woman also didn't have followers, right? I forgot her name. Does anyone remember the woman in Central Park's name this last summer? Amy Cooper, that's right. Okay. So we're going to talk a lot more about Black Lives Matter and like a lot of rhetoric associated with civil rights in about a month. So we're not necessarily getting into that now. We are getting into cancel stuff right now, okay? So just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Amy Cooper is walking her dog in Central Park and the dog is not on a leash. A black man, stops her and says, would you put your dog on a leash? Because it's illegal to have your dog off of a leash running around, right? And so she gets very angry and flustered and claims that she's terrified. She keeps saying, like, you're harassing me, you know, stop harassing me. And she tells him what she's gonna do. She's like, I'm gonna call the cops. And he's like, I'm asking you to put your dog on your leash. So he films it, he's filming it, and she's on the phone with the cops, and she purposely says, there is a black man harassing me in Central Park. And everyone has decided, and just, this is an aside, I know we want to have a conversation about this, but she totally did it on purpose. Everyone has decided basically though, that she knew exactly what she was doing. Like she knew that by saying the man's race, she was potentially weaponizing the police force against him when they show up, right? So everyone is saying that's not only her a public freak out video where we can all just look at this Karen and say like, ugh, what white ladies, you know? Instead, people are saying she threatened somebody's life in this roundabout way by treating him this way, right? And the response was huge. First of all, the place where she was adopting her dog from took the dog away, which like was the fastest response ever, and like a really kind of disturbing, like we can respond better to mistreatment against animals than we can to mistreatment against people, but whatever. So they take the dog away because she was like holding it up on the leash and like kind of choking the dog. So they do that, but then also this video goes massively viral. Have you seen the video?
No. So many.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it goes massively viral. People are outraged. She is fired from her job, definitely. She's kind of fired from life. She made a public apology video that everybody's just like, oh, boo-hoo to you. You know, like people hate her now, right? Not only that, but she also added a lot of fire it was right around the same time. It was like 2 days before George Floyd's death. And so it added fire to these massive protests, right? And so people are also looking to her and saying like, you are the problem, you know? So what do you think about canceling in that situation? Because that's very different than somebody who makes that joke. Yeah, Ella.
I feel like there's a lot of history with minority men in Central Park going back to Central Park 5.
Yeah.
So that kind of sentence sets a lot of people off.
Yeah.
In a way. And it's a very difficult thing to come back from. Because what she said was definitely wrong. But I can also see from her perspective how it can be difficult to get back to normal life. But after that, there is no
She won't be able to.
There's absolutely not.
Yeah, right. And so you're saying, yeah, I have empathy for her.
I have empathy, but also not at the same time.
Yeah, okay. Sadie?
I would say this is like a lot worse than the first lady because it's actually like hurting someone else to say those words. And
Okay.
especially like, it's like I think that is a lot more egregious of a thing to do and say because it, puts somebody else in danger like you were saying or whatever.
So if we're looking at the some crimes deserve it, would you say that then physical danger is one of those crimes that deserves it? What if it's mental danger in that you are insulting someone and trying to ruin their life that way. Does that deserve?
I mean, I don't know what.
It depends to the degree.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, Raven.
That's like what I was going to talk about. Like, there's a fine line between like saying a slur online a couple years ago and literally being like somebody who is weaponizing someone's skin color, knowing that they can get killed.
Yeah.
That is, you are a psychopath for doing that.
Okay.
And you are like not mature. You need to be put into therapy because you should not be weaponizing somebody's skin color.
Okay.
And when you know there could be violent repercussions. That is not a person who's mentally okay.
So we kind of started with this idea. I think it was Olivia that said like sometimes we should judge people. Is that right? And here you're saying like this is one of those people then that yeah we should make a communal decision and judge her. Yeah.
I have a question.
And why is that though? Okay, so let's step back from the controversy for a second. Like someone mentioned, like, well, serial killers, we cancel them, right? They go to prison though, right? That's how they are like legally canceled. They can't vote anymore. They're out of our society. So why is it okay then, based on that idea? Why is it okay to decide as a culture? We got a name for this before cancel culture became a thing. It's called mob rule, right? Why is it okay to enact mob rule on certain people and kind of take over for the justice system?
If you're potentially hurting someone else, like what Amy Cooper did, like she's potentially like this guy could probably have gotten like things like her.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. Like if you're hurting someone else or like impeding on someone's rights, that's not.
Okay, so it has to do with like whether it's just about you as a person and whether it is you in relation to other people. Yeah.
And I think especially in this situation, she's trying to weaponize our justice system. So in that case, the outside needs to step in and be like, hey, she's trying to weaponize you. Like, you need to see this.
Good. And I think that's the main thing. I think a lot of this stems from this perception that the justice system is failing to capture the people that we would like the justice system to capture. And so we've decided to democratically punish people rather than relying on a justice system. And that's in the case of the tweet. I think that's in the case of Amy Cooper as well. Yeah.
So I think like sometimes like cancel culture is like something that's like needed, like the community, I guess, like saying she's canceled.
Yeah.
Because like without that, like they drafted up a bill that's like stuff like that. Now,
Right.
All these calls.
Yeah.
And then like because of that, like people can say.
Good. So there's this idea that public pressure is very powerful, and we feel a huge, now that we all have a platform, we feel a huge responsibility to enact that power then. And in this case, it had an effect. I don't know that it has been actually put into effect yet, but it could be, we could be safer because of it. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like Black men could be safer because of it. Yeah.
And like along the lines of kind of like the story, the public pressure was like to try and discourage like the image of adultery. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yes.
Where it's like,
Yes.
if you do this, you could be caught on video and you could be canceled. So don't do it.
Yes. And that's where thank you for that transition. It's perfect. That's where we get back to Scarlet Letter, right? I don't think it's as simple as the society is the villain, Hester is the hero, she's the powerful individual that will overcome all of these evil religious guys trying to put her down, right? I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. This society has decided as a kind of group that the trade-off to being part of our society is you have to live according to these religious rules. And they've also decided that her sin is particularly dangerous to that community. And I think that's part of what this book is about, is why that particular sin is so dangerous to a Puritan community. And kind of like, then how do we react to that? So let's actually read some of the book. Let's look at it.
Can I make the point?
Yeah.
I think that punishing her was actually probably more